Hello everyone, and welcome to the showdown between the Skaven, who shall be led by Lord Skrolk, and the Greenskins, who are going to be led by a big old angry orc warboss, who's going to be on a wyvern. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So in this build, we're going to be taking it back to the old school, the very root of Skaven play from Total War Warhammer 2. So when they first came out, some of the more common tactics you would see was a bunch of Doom Wheels. So we have two Doom Wheels. We're going to be bringing two of these bad boys. They're pretty damn good against Greenskins. They cause fear, they cause terror, and they also have magic damage with their little missile attacks that come out of the front, which is quite good against these savage orcs and their physical resist. But yeah, these things are quite beastly against hordes of infantry. They're good against black orcs. They have a bonus versus infantry. They're mobile. They're very tough to pin down. However, very controversial stuff. My opponent does have a couple of pretty good answers. The trolls are actually a really good answer. I mean, yes, they can be terror routed, but they have good mass, good armor piercing, and they can really beat down those wheels if they get the jump. On top of that, he has a Goblin Big Boss, and yeah, another good patrol, so definitely some scary stuff going on. But we got the double Doom Wheel, and the entire front line of our army is going to be very Skaven. It's going to be all Skaven slaves. So we're going to be driving these slaves with their, let's see, 25 melee defense right now. That's not terrible, I guess. You know, they got the 10 melee attack, but we're going to be driving them headlong into a bunch of Orc Boys and Savage Orc Biggins who are going to have the WA, so I'm sure they're really going to enjoy their short and miserable existence here on this earth. So Skaven slaves in the front line. We do also have a Plague Priest here in the back, and he's a Mortis engine. He's going to be summoning rats, but mainly he's just a Mortis engine. But yeah, he's definitely going to be in some danger. I mean, there's a ton of archers in the back, and of course, the Orc Warboss is a beastly combatant. He does have 45 melee attack, poison, massive armor piercing value, so I got to be careful with this boy. On top of that, we got a couple rat ogres, which are just very solid. They're mobile, they hit hard, they can beat down black orcs and things like that. But yeah, they're going to struggle against these savage orc biggins. But nonetheless, if they're stacked on top of Skaven slaves, and the slaves are going to be getting, you know, their heads chopped off and getting beaten up. From there, the rat ogre should be able to do a pretty good job. Double Doom Wheel, and the real, my favorite part of this build is going to be Death Runners. And these are honestly one of the more underrated units on the Skaven roster. These things are so damn good. So firstly, they do have stock. So I'm going to be trying to sneak up into the back line, get on top of the Night Goblin archers here. And even if you want to fight in the front line, yeah, it's not going to do much against Savage Orc Biggins and their 0 armor. But against some of the other troops, I mean, it will half the armor of trolls. It'll lower the armor of these Orc Boy Biggins and the Black Orcs and the Orc Boys. But yeah, just having that mobility, just the chance to jump into your opponent's back line, sunder armor, and you know, honestly, they're pretty okay in sustained combat. They do have some decent physical resist. I think it's at like 25% or something like that, 30%. Wow, that's pretty juicy stuff. So we're going to be getting around. Hopefully they'll get some value, and we will find out in just a moment. So for my opponent's build, it's got an Orc Warboss up in the skies with the WA, of course, but other than that, he's just probably going for a cost. Just getting the Orc Warboss because he's really cheap. But even on the wyvern, he really doesn't cost much. He's a pretty damn powerful combatant. And some of the more popular picks that Skaven do bring against Greenskins are going to be Doom Wheels and Plague Furnaces, and sometimes you'll see like a Wild Hellpit Abomination. But yeah, he's going to be good against all those. On the ground here, he's got a combination of Savage Orc Biggins and Orc Boys. Orc Boys, obviously, I mean, there's not really a contest in the front line. He is going to win that. It's more going to be, can he kill the Rat Ogres, Skrolk, my Assassin. I also forgot to mention I do have an Assassin as well, who's going to be with the Rival High Talisman, because if you are in a blob fight and you're playing with the Skaven, you really have to bring this item. It is so damn powerful, and it really only costs like 75-100 gold, and it gives all enemy troops in a 40-meter radius for 31 seconds, and they get a 44 melee attack, which is pretty insane. But anyways, front line's going to be Savage Orc Biggins and Orc Boys. In the secondary line, he does have some Black Orcs, just in case I brought some Storm Vermin, and 2 Trolls. Now, I really like the Troll pick quite a bit. I think they're a great answer against Plague Furnaces, Doom Wheels, all sorts of big Skaven stuff. But they do route easily, so it's a little bit micro-intensive, but nonetheless, I like this pick. In the back, he's got a couple groups of Night Goblin Archers, Orc Boy Biggins, and looks like a Goblin Big Boss, and an Orc Shaman with the Foot of Gork, and there we go. So there's going to be some hot foot action. Granted, I don't have too many good targets, but I'm quite excited to see it. So, yeah, the battle's about underway here. My Skaven hordes are going to be charging into the front of the Savage Orcs. It's going to be a messy, bloody affair, as the WA is going to be popped here in a moment, I'm sure. But the Plague Furnace is going to be getting in there, dropping down that Mortis Engine effect. You can see immediately it's going to be taking effect as the Plague Furnace does engage in melee. And I also have Skrolk. Skrolk is probably the best choice if you're going to be using these type of builds, simply because of the Rod of Corruption and his ability to really summon. Now, I do pull back the Rat Ogres because I knew there was a lot of Savage Orc Biggins here, so I didn't want them to overextend into the Savage Orc Biggins. So I pulled them back and then I re-engaged them. So the Rat Boys are going to be jumping in there and just doing their somersaults and their just Donkey Kong slams here and having a good time. Now, with the Plague Furnace, in retrospect, I should have kept it back and just sat it over here, but I was kind of on the ropes a little bit because I was like, oh, do I want it? You know, the Orc Warboss is just waiting for me to do that. He's essentially sitting overhead. But my Death Runners from the back, the other one's sneaking up and over here with concealment bombs, and these guys also have concealment bombs, are able to outsmart some of these trolls right here. So they do get around those guys, and now they're going to start prison shanking these goblins and doing a ton of damage. And they actually have some pretty cool attack animations. You can see they're going to be doing some jump kicks and some karate. On top of that, Skrolk is going to be summoning some Plague Monks right here to shut down the second group. And the third group of Death Runners is going to be coming from the far side. So we have effectively shut down the back line. Now it's getting a little bit dicey in the front though. Bounce of power, a little bit in my opponent's favor as my Plague Furnace is just getting melted. But the double Doom Wheels are just running rampant. These things have just been rolling dirty through my opponent's line, just cackling and being Skaven, you know, so 10 kills on this one, 7 here. But the trolls, with their mass and the walk, that speed increase is so solid. They're able to pin down a lot of my troops here, but now the Death Runners are in the back line. Plague Monks are killing these Night Goblin Archers, and suddenly the back line for the Greenskins here is looking pretty disastrous, as a lot of these goblins are getting pounded out pretty badly. But in the mainline fight, you can see Skrull's kind of standing alone. I do have the Assassin here and some Skaven slaves with spears kind of supporting, but that's pretty much it. The rest of my forces are kind of allocated to the back line, just cleaning up here, but the trolls are doing their best to hunt down the Doom Wheels, but I do have the advantage of mobility with the Doom Wheels, and the mass, of course, they push through, so these Doom Wheels coming in with the rear charge here, just rolling dirty. Oh, I just got like this really cringy flashback to like my 7th, 8th grade years with the, what was that Limp Bizkit song? I think it's just called Rollin', where it's like, rolling, rolling, rolling. Anyways, here comes the foot of Gork right there, dropping it down in the middle of my army, but, you know, thankfully it was mostly just Skaven slaves with spears who got crushed there, so it's not going to be terrible, and Skrull has the ability to really protect himself by spamming summons, so I actually summoned some Plague Monks behind these Orc Boys, and from there they're able to get in there, break the leadership of the Orc Boys, fend them off, and free up Big Daddy Skrull. On top of that, the Doom Wheels, even though Savage Orc Vegans are immune to psychology, or Savage Orc Vegans are immune to psychology while their frenzy is active, when the frenzy goes down, their leadership tanks, they get rear charged, it's pretty easy to terror up. So you can see these guys are going to be terror-rated right now, but in the back things are getting a little bit hog wild. You can see that the Orc Warboy Vegans are actually hunting down my Rat Ogres who are rallying over here, so I'm trying my best to just hide the Rat Ogres behind the spears, but the Vegans are, you know, they're searching for that bacon. They've been hunting down and just routing off my Rat Ogres with their bonus first large, so very well played to my opponent here in the back line, just causing all sorts of problems. But in the main fight, it's definitely looking pretty good for the Rat Boys. You can see we are just aggressively pathing our entire force. So the Skaven, obviously, if I let myself spread out and get picked apart, his Orc War Boss on the Wyvern could swoop in there, get a couple free kills, and kind of, you know, pick apart my formation. So I'm running in pretty much a giant Death Star. The Doom Wheels are very good for chasing down these characters. So the Orc Shaman, of course, is a pretty powerful fighter in his own right. He does also have the Encourage aura for nearby Greenskins. So I'm getting in there with the Assassin, Lord Skrulk, the Doom Wheel, everything I possibly can, trying to shut down this Orc Shaman. But, you know, something else I have to consider is he does have quite a few trolls, right? So the trolls, yes, they're shaken, but these guys are still at 12 models. The other group of trolls, I think, is in good shape as well. They're pulling back with 9 models. So those bad boys are going to be able to heal up, and in the meantime, my opponent is going to be retaliating over here. He does have the Orc War Boss as well as these Orc Warboy Vegans who are squealing. They're on the hunt. They're hunting down those Skaven slaves. Definitely going to be having a good time at my expense. I am trying to pull back, you know, the Rat Ogres here, but look how beat up. They have like 5 models. Those guys are going to be sent to the Great Horned Rat soon, I'm sure. So basically, my opponent and I are both doing the same thing. We're looking for high-value targets. We're trying to pick the other one apart. Looks like the Orc War Boss might come in here for a bit of an alpha strike, try and get in there on Skrulk with the Goblin Big Boss. Still, it's a bit of a risky gambit. Skrulk is no pushover, and he's on foot, so oftentimes he's going to get knocked over instead of actually taking the damage. So Skrulk here does get knocked over by the Goblin Big Boss, and it looks like the Big Wyvern Master is going to be coming in here trying to get a charge on my Doom Wheel, but it's a bold strategy, Cotton, because Doom Wheels actually aren't terrible in melee. I do also have an Assassin. Liber Bubonic is going to be going down, and Skrulk is also going to be summoning some Rat Boys, because I saw this massive horde of Savage Orcs coming back in, which are still, you know, relatively strong with 49 models. So I summoned some Clan Rats back here, and the Clan Rats do get the back position, and that's one of the best ways to use summons against low leadership factions. So you just summon behind the unit as they're charging you, you attack, and anytime you attack a unit in the back, it's going to penalize it for, I think, negative 14 or 15 leadership, give or take, which is really substantial against Greenskin units. So the Rats coming in here doing a pretty good job. Doom Wheels, of course, with that perpetual terror. So as their leadership does tank from being rear attacked, they're also going to be taking damage from the Doom Wheels. So the Doom Wheels and the Liber Bubonicus are able to fend off the Orc War Boss. On top of that, we do also have the Assassin here with Slippery. So we had a lot of stuff going for us. And you can also see the Doom Wheels with their little rockets in the front are going to be shooting at the Orc War Boss as he does flee. So the Goblin Big Boss here does have the Trophy Heads cast on him, which is going to be putting his melee defense to pretty much 0. He's definitely not going to be in the best of shape. He does have 3 melee defense. Doom Wheel's getting in there. Lord Skrulk helping as well. So let's take a look at the rest of the Greenskin army. Excuse me. So on the far side, he does have the Orc Boys. Pretty much a full health of Orc Warboy Biggins, which he was using to chase down my Rat Ogres. So yeah, he completely destroyed my Rat Ogres as well as the Skaven slaves I had over here. So it's pretty much on cleanup duty with those guys. He has some Black Orcs, some Trolls who do have 9 models. And you can see the Trolls are going to be healing. And the bounce power, yes, it's in my favor, but it's actually still close. I mean, for the most part, it's going to be really tough for him to crack double Doom Wheel plus Skrulk, but if he's able to get a really optimal charge with these Orc Warboy Biggins, maybe isolate one of my Doom Wheels, I could be in a lot of trouble. On top of that, the Orc War Boss, I believe, has come back. He's shaken, but there's plenty of opportunities for him to get in here. So the Trolls and the Rat Ogre is going to be having a King Kong and Godzilla fight, and it looks like the Trolls got the upper hand of that. Oh my goodness. Just all the Rat Ogres there just got absolutely pounded, just sent flying. So I guess the Trolls do have a little bit better mass. So the Rat Ogres are going to be pinned down by these Trolls here, and they're confident, which is a pretty rare thing to see amongst the Troll kind. But anyways, the Rat Ogres will be piling back in. The Doom Wheels coming in as well, and the Doom Wheels do, of course, cause terror. And Trolls cause fear, but they do not cause terror. Therefore, they're not immune to terror, so they are going to be pushed off the battlefield with Terror Route. and I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. I'm going to be chasing these guys down, making sure to break them off the battlefield because they do heal, and they'll come back in greater numbers if I let them escape. Anyways, the Black Orcs here, pretty tattered as well. Doom Wheel is pretty much a hard counter to Black Orcs. Great Weapon's obviously not going to be terribly efficient against these big high-mass monsters that can just push through them. But it looks like the Piggy's coming in for a bit of an alpha strike, but my opponent does the old bait and switch. He pulls back at the last second. He pushes in the Orc Boys. But the Doom Wheels and the Assassins are going to be getting in there. And seeing that the Piggies are coming in, I try to block them with a Summon, but unfortunately I was a little bit off kilter there, and the Rats are going to be behind them. But I mean, it's not the worst case scenario because I can now charge in and pin him with these Rats, but the Piggy's going in for the big old Alpha Strike, and I think the Orc Warboss is staying up in the air just because my opponent doesn't want to be taking the penalty for his Lord dying, because if that happened, it would probably trigger army losses. But from here, the Piggies are trying their best, but really, you know, Orc Warboy Biggins, as far as cav go, they're a decent kind of shot cav for isolating a single big target, but in big melees, their stats are just too poor to kind of fight in those environments. Their melee attack, obviously, due to the poison or some other debuff, is low, but their melee defense is only 20, which means that like even Skaven slaves with spears and very low tier infantry are going to be able to get some value. So from here, it's mostly going to be cleanup as the Greenskins do try and rally their forces with some of these orcs, and you can also see the Wyvern's going to be landing, and he gives Skrulk a good punt to end the battle, just kind of sending that message of, you know, the Wah's never going to give up, and yeah, that's going to be it. So well played to my opponent. It was definitely a fun battle. My apologies for the voice going. I've actually just been punching these out after the Eternal Challenger League, and oh man, that 6-hour cast really just like just ruined my voice for a couple days. But anyways, the Skaven, yeah, it was a good build. I mean, that's kind of like a classic OG build. I would say the more traditional way to do that would probably be to cut the Death Runners. That's not something you would see in this build terribly often. More often than not, somebody's going to be going for a Death Star or like a Doom Wheel just rollover. They're going to just allocate more resources to that aggression. So maybe you're going to see some Storm Vermin with these Swords and Shields. You're going to see more Rat Ogres. You're going to see like big monsters, just more stuff like that. But honestly, I felt like the Death Runners were really kind of my saving grace. If I didn't have those guys get up and around the back line with their concealment bombs and jump on top of those Night Goblin archers, you saw how fast his archer line was able to annihilate my Plague Priest. It was super quick, like and that's brutal. That thing cost like 1,400 gold, and had they been able to continue firing, and you know, I couldn't get back there with the Doom Wheels because the Trolls were just watching my Doom Wheels. Whenever I went, the Trolls would countercharge using their mass. So, I mean, eventually I did get back there, but I think that the thing that really opened up the pressure in the back line was the Death Runners. So those guys will be getting the Skaven MVP for today. So, as far as my opponent's army, it was definitely solid. I like it quite a bit. You don't need a high tier front line against Skaven. Typically, the Savage Orc Pagans are a good dual purpose unit. They hit hard enough to probably beat down almost all Skaven infantry, and on top of that, they're pretty good against Rat Ogres, Helped Abominations, and can chip into Doom Wheels with their bonus versus large. And I love the Troll pick. I think the Troll pick is great. You might want to get like the Broken Tusk Mob just because they're immune to psychology and they won't be terror ratted off the Doom Wheel. And also I would suggest mixing in the Rusty Arrows. But aside from that, you could cut like an Orc Boy to kind of accommodate those changes. Maybe slip in some Goblins and yeah, figure it out from there. So very well played to my opponent, Hecubar. Look forward to running into you again on ladder. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the Skaven vs Greenskin showdown. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.